Risk management plans and how to develop risk management plans for your organization. Welcome to the Risk Management of Everything channel. On this channel, you will see videos on risk management and the application of risk management to diverse areas and sectors. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the notification button so you can be notified when we upload new videos. Thank you. This video explores risk management plans and how to develop risk management plans for an organization. In this video, you will understand the meaning of risk management plan, type of risk to be considered when preparing a risk management plan, elements of risk, levels of the knowability of risks, benefits of creating a risk management plan, effective risk management plan, steps to creating a risk management plan, and best practices for maintaining a risk management plan. Now, let us start. When you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Poor planning is at the root of most project failures. It is easy to plan for positive outcomes, like milestones and success metrics, but it is not always easy to plan for the worst. It is even more critical for small businesses to plan for risk than it is for larger organizations. We often like to think that our project will go smoothly, but sometimes ignoring potential risks is not overly optimistic. It is dangerous. Nearly half of all project failures are due to undefined risks. That is where a risk management plan comes in to help mitigate risks before they become problems. What is risk management? Managing business risk is one of the most critical aspects of top management. Risk management aims at managing potential both positive and negative impacts on organizations' operations and projects. If one of the potential risks has passed the threshold, it can jeopardize the company and projects. Risks are an inherent part of all organizations and projects. Hence, the need to identify, evaluate, manage and monitor potential organizational and project risks. Some risks are bound to become problem areas, like executing a project over the holidays and planning the project timeline around them. Hence, the risk management process should be a proactive and reactive process of identifying, analyzing, and responding to risks that emerge within an organization and its operations. Creating a risk management plan for business continuity is necessary to ensure that management makes the right decision. Often, business plans seem like a fantastic idea, but unexpected problems occur during execution, which ends up damaging the future of the business. Large organizations have dedicated risk personnel whose sole focus is on potential risks, but smaller organizations also need to plan for risk. Larger organizations can survive a small problem, but a similar problem can bring a small business to a standstill. What is a risk management plan? A risk management plan is a well-defined document that articulates how to deal with specific risks and what management actions must be taken against those risks to mitigate or remove threats to the project tasks and outcomes. In the most basic terms possible, a risk management plan is a document used by organizations and project managers to identify potential risks to the project, estimate the impact and the probability of them happening, and then define responses. The risk management plan gives teams a sense of measures they need to take to identify, analyze, and respond to all the risks running around within the project wheel. An organization or project risk management plan is a document that helps in identifying, evaluating, and planning for potential issues that could arise within an organization or during a project life cycle. It is like a roadmap that shows potholes and accident-prone aspects of a company's operations. This plan is part of a typical risk management process that exists during the whole life cycle. The risk management process brings together all the driving forces that cause the project management team to treat risks. It is, however, necessary to emphasize that not all risks are bad. A risk is simply a moment of uncertainty. We do not know what will happen, and the potential outcomes can be positive or negative. Risks can be uncertainties in scope, schedule, cost, or quality. The essence of creating a risk management plan is to identify those moments and create a system to maximize the positive impacts and mitigate potential negative consequences. Studies have shown that we often overestimate our ability to influence events that are based on chance. In other words, we think we have more control over uncertainties than we do. We might blame cognitive biases, which are mental shortcuts that influence our thinking, for this problem. Specifically, when imagining the outcomes of a project, it is easy to fall victim to 1. Anchoring. This often occurs when we give too much value to readily available information instead of thinking about less likely outcomes. This might make a manager think only about the company's risks based on a previous project, with less emphasis on much earlier projects. 2. Confirmation bias. This often occurs when we value information that aligns with our current position and devalue anything that contradicts it. 3. Survivorship bias. This often occurs when we give too much value to success stories and ignore all the ones of failure. 4. Groupthink. This occurs when we get sucked into a group's decision and do not bring up objections, even if they are valid. And 5. The planning fallacy. This often occurs when we are overly optimistic about how much time or resources a project would take. Cognitive biases should be avoided to ensure that crucial risks are addressed in the risk management plan. It is, therefore, necessary to avoid any of these biases and ignore real risks when developing an organization or a project risk management plan. Type of risk to be considered when preparing a risk management plan. So, what type of risks and uncertainties should be considered when preparing a risk management plan? According to the Project Management Institute, most project risks may be classified into 4 categories. 1. Technical. This includes risks based on requirements, the technology, interfaces, performance, and quality. 2. Management. This includes what might emanate from planning, scheduling, estimating, or communication. 3. Organizational. This includes the firm's peculiar features, which can impact operations, projects, logistics, budget, and resources. 4. External risks. This entails risks that emanate from a firm's customers, users, contractors, and the marketplace. Each of these risks could potentially result in a positive outcome. For example, a change in demand might result in a reduction in the company's sales decline. Ideally, the company should think about how to take advantage of a sudden increase in its budget. Elements of risk. According to Gregory Becker, the 3 elements of every risk are: 1. The risk refers to the event or condition that may happen. The risk should be clearly defined to ensure that the concern is made real and thoroughly addressed. 2. The consequence of the risk should be well defined to ensure that the risk management team knows what is at stake, the magnitude and level of urgency of the impact, and its impacts on the entire organization. 3. The probability of the risk occurrence must be accurate and well estimated to ensure that the team allocates an appropriate and proportionate amount of time and energy to the planning, monitoring, and response to the risk. It is not practically possible to identify all risks on the surface. Hence, the level of the knowability of risks varies from organization to organization and project to project. Now, let us consider levels of the knowability of risks. Levels of knowability of risks. For each risk, there are 3 levels of knowability to consider. An organization or project risks are unplanned, but that does not mean they are always unknown. There are 3 basic levels of the knowability of risks: known risk, unknown risk, and unknowable risk. 1. A known risk. A known risk is something that team members or stakeholders have recognized. Maybe it came up during the project planning stage or was voiced by an expert. These should be thoroughly analyzed and documented in the risk management plan well in advance. 2. An unknown risk. An unknown risk is one that did not come up right away and might only be known or recognized by a few people, such as an expert or specialist. It is necessary to dedicate quality time to discover these while preparing a risk management plan. 3. An unknowable risk. An unknowable risk cannot be reasonably expected or foreseeable, such as total system failure, a market crash, or an accident. An unknowable risk is a risk that no one can reasonably anticipate or expect it, but, usually a surprise to most individuals, such as system failure, sudden illness, and accident. It may not be necessary to list all these in the risk management plan. It is impossible to anticipate every risk, but that does not mean that unlisted or unidentified risks do not exist. Benefits of creating a risk management plan. Risk management plans provide various benefits that make the document a worthwhile endeavor for every organization. From helping businesses to identify the potential risks they may face to treating them. Being aware of these risks allows companies to make plans and deal with them when they arise. Benefits of having a risk management plan, amongst others, are 2. 1. Boosts results. Having a risk management plan will enhance the performance of a firm and success of a project. A risk management plan will enable the planning team to meet the budget and fulfill targeted goals. If there are no well-defined risk management strategies in place, the company's projects would become vulnerable and exposed to problems. 2. Ensures proactive and not reactive. Having a clear risk management plan will enable a firm to be proactive to reduce potential issues before they arise, instead of a constantly firefighting approach. 3. Helps evaluate the impact of risk exposures. With the help of a devised risk management plan, the company can assess the impact of tasks by mitigating exposure to risks and exploiting opportunities that capitalize on the company's strengths. In other words, it helps a firm to evaluate the success of a project, thereby ensuring best practices and well-informed decision-making. Effective risk management plan. The process for creating a risk management plan follows a simple flow of identity, evaluating, planning, and monitoring. Risk management plans may vary from organization to organization. Hence, the need to highlight simple rules on creating a risk management plan. Here are 5 simple rules of creating an effective risk management plan. 1. Identify potential risks. 2. Understanding potential risks. 3. Prioritizing the risks. 4. Determine the risks that require attention. 5. Mobilize resources to manage the risks to achieve business and customer objectives. Steps to creating a risk management plan. It is time to bring all this together into a proper risk management plan. Now, let us discuss the 8 steps involved in creating a risk management plan. Step 1. Define the risk management plan approach. The first step in creating a risk management plan is to outline the planning team's methods to identify, analyze, and prioritize risk. It would be good if the team aimed to answer the following questions. How are we going to identify risks to the project? What techniques are we going to use to analyze those risks? How will we decide what to do in the event a risk becomes a reality? What is the communication plan for a risk event? And, which stakeholders should focus on in appraising the project risks? The team should also determine how they will communicate with key stakeholders about risk and how they will respond to risk when it materializes. The team should also identify the critical stakeholders for each project and measure their risk tolerance levels. Just as an investment manager should tailor its investment strategy to their client's risk tolerance, a project manager should tailor its risk management strategy to the risk tolerance of their project's stakeholders. Step 2. Identify potential risks and then document and prioritize risks. The second step is to identify all the potential risks that each project is facing. Here is where the team need to dig into the 4 risk categories: technical, management, organizational, and external risks, and the 3 levels of knowability: known risks, unknown risks, and unknowable risks, discussed earlier. Potential risks should be identified at the beginning of the project, and they should be reviewed regularly, for example, after achieving a key milestone or target. There are different ways of identifying risks. The strategy used in identifying risks would depend on the resources, team, the size of the organization, and the focus of a project. To understand how to identify risks within the organization, see our video titled 26 Ways to Identify Risks in Your Organization. Here are some ways of identifying risks in an organization. 1. Interviews. Set time aside to speak with key project stakeholders, outside experts, and other teammates who might be able to shed light on some of the more unknown risks. Some of the team members might have worked on similar projects and know where things broke down. 2. Brainstorming sessions. The planning team is one of the best sources of information on potential risks. Like any other group meeting, a brainstorming session should be planned and run to keep it on track. The team should list an agenda and context beforehand and set the tone when people arrive. The brainstorming focus should be on risks that people have experienced in the past on similar projects. 3. Risk checklists. Does the company already have a workflow in place for identifying risks? If so, they probably have a checklist of areas and categories to explore. If not, this is a great tool to build and use in later projects. 4. Assumption analysis. Every assumption is a source of potential risk. Remember the cognitive biases discussed earlier. Take a few minutes and think about everything assumed to be accurate or honest about this project. Are the thoughts highlighted valid? What proof is available to substantiate the thoughts highlighted? The best course of action is to involve as many people as possible in each process. The planning team should consult with project stakeholders and external relevant experts. After identifying potential risks, the risks should be documented and prioritized. Let us start by writing a risk statement. Instead of a vague, one-word risk like budget, if-then statements can be used to define each risk clearly. Simply put, if-then is a language formula where if means event or risk, and then means consequence. Hence, the if-then statement means, if, event/risk, then, consequence. These statements will help understand two things. 1. What will trigger the risk or uncertainty, and 2. What the potential impact is. The next thing is that each risk scenario should be prioritized. All the risks identified should be recorded in the risk register. A risk register is a simple table that helps a firm organize its risks and list common responses. As we work through the rest of the steps of creating a risk management plan, you will understand how to complete the remaining parts of a risk register. Step 3. Evaluate and assess the consequence, impact, and probability of each potential risk. As the team prioritize the company's risks, the following questions should be considered. 1. What will happen if this situation takes place? 2. How likely is it that this will happen? And 3. How bad will the resulting impact be on the project? It is essential to understand three significant factors of each risk, that is consequence, probability, and impact, to ensure practical evaluation and assessment of a firm's risk exposures. This will assist the team in understanding the context and importance of each of the risks. At this stage, the team should review the qualitative and quantitative impact of the risk and assign a likelihood score, from low to a high probability, and a risk impact score, either low, medium, or high. If the organization is exposed to several risks, it might be helpful to use a more complex system to score the likelihood and impact of the company's risks. After scoring the risks, it might be helpful to use a risk assessment matrix to plot them out visually. It is good to develop a likelihood and impact with different colors, including red, brown, yellow, and green, as shown in this matrix. This matrix shows that green color often means that those risks are catastrophic, brown color means that those risks are unacceptable, brown color means that those risks are undesirable, and green color often means that those risks are acceptable. Ideally, catastrophic risks should be avoided, unacceptable risks require urgent action, undesirable risks require action, and acceptable risks should be monitored. The more complex the scores, the more complex the matrix. Step 4. Assign roles and responsibilities to each risk. It is not enough to write risks down and hope they will not occur. Each risk needs to be assigned to a team member, prioritized, and estimate the resources required to handle the risk. They also need to understand the risk triggers or warning signs that indicate that they need to take action. The designated team member will be responsible for taking ownership if the risk becomes an actual issue. A risk trigger might be identified in advance, when it is a knowable risk, while it will be pretty much impossible to pinpoint its exact cause in other cases. For example, a business might know that there are risks to its brand when it changes the pricing structure, but the company might not identify the exact trigger, such as a Facebook post or blog from a customer. This is where using a project management tool is so important. While a risk management plan could be online as a wiki page, transferring individual risks into issues means that the company can assign and track their progress with the organization over all operations and activities. While risks should be assigned to a single person, they should be visible to all. This way, everyone is aware of what to watch out for and whom to contact if they see one of the triggers. Step 5. Develop preventative strategies for each risk. The essence of a risk management plan is to identify risks and highlight how to manage the risks to ensure that they do not constitute killer risks to organizations. For each identified risk, the project manager and the assigned teammate should brainstorm a proper response. In most cases, business organizations would handle risks in 4 major ways. 1. Avoid, change the plan to bypass the issue. In other words, remove the cause of the threat completely. 2. Transfer, outsource the risk, or a portion of it, to a different team or agency. Think of this as a typical insurance policy. 3. Mitigate, take immediate steps to reduce the impact of the risk. This could mean reviewing the requirements, carry out additional testing, or searching for different options. 4. Accept, assume the chance of a negative impact or eventually budget funds for dealing with the risk. A risk response plan should contain adequate details in terms of the significance of each risk. For example, there is no point in creating an in-depth response to a low-impact and low-probability risk. Moreover, the risk monitoring team can escalate a risk if the response is beyond the expected consequences. This takes us to our next step. Step 6. Create a contingency plan in case things go wrong. If the company accepts the potential fallout of a risk, then it is necessary to determine what to do if the risk occurred. This is known as a contingency plan. A contingency plan is a list of possible things or actions following an event. A contingency plan covers the unexpected. Planning for contingencies and the unexpected is beneficial in mitigating a firm's risk exposures. Contingency plans should highlight plans to manage high-priority and high-impact risks. Contingent plans should also contain solutions and step-by-step plans to address unexpected events. The plan should include a workflow that highlights essential steps including 1. Find and document resources that can be used in an emergency. This could mean moving team members off a different task, diverting budget, or increasing the scope. 2. Identify the person who should be informed if there is an issue. 3. Create a plan of action for dealing with the issue. Are there alternatives that might be explored or flexibility that can be added to the existing project plan? Do employees and stakeholders know whom to bring in and where to ask for help? A checklist can help keep focused when the organization is in a crisis mode. 4. Keep an eye on the risk triggers for these issues, especially deadlines. The balance of contingency planning is that these are usually issues with a small probability of happening. It is easy to get sucked into imagining every terrible situation that might arise. However, if the potential downfall of one of these risks could threaten the company, it is good to brainstorm on how to address the potential consequences of those risks if they occurred. Step 7. Measure risk thresholds and work with project stakeholders. While every project comes with some level of risk, the potential adverse outcomes are just too much to gamble on there somewhere. This is known as the risk threshold, which is the risk that the company and stakeholders are willing to take. While creating a risk management plan, it is essential to contact the key stakeholders for their inputs and opinion. Is there too much risk to justify the project as scoped? Can the company change its project plan before the commencement to reduce the risks? While this might be annoying, it is better to make changes early rather than having severe issues after the company has already committed time and energy. Step 8. Continue to monitor and report on each risk. Risk management is a circle, not a linear path. Because the team is dealing with unknowns, the risk management plan should be monitored continually to ensure its effectiveness. Whoever owns the risk needs to be responsible for tracking it, updating it in the project management tool, and ensuring that other people know what is going on. New risks would surely arise as the project progresses. This is because what seemed like a low probability risk at the project's early stage might suddenly change to a high probability risk. Using a risk management planning tool to keep track of the company's risks, the company can easily update them and keep everyone updated on the situation. Best practices for maintaining a risk management plan. A risk management plan is constantly evolving within an organization or during a project's life cycle. Risk management plans may fail due to several factors, including an insufficient budget, modeling errors, and ignoring identified risks. So, the best practices are to focus on the monitoring phase of the risk management plan. Continue to evaluate and re-evaluate the risks, their scores, and address risks at every project milestone. Project dashboards and other tracking features can also be a lifesaver for maintaining the organization's risk management plan. In addition to the routine tracking, at each milestone, the company should conduct another round of interviews with the checklist used at the beginning of the project to re-interview stakeholders, project members, customers, if applicable, and industry experts. Record their responses, adjust the risk matrix if necessary, and report all relevant updates of the risk management plan to key stakeholders. This process and transparency level will help identify any new risks and determine if any previous risks have expired. Conclusion. This video has explained risk management plans and how to develop risk management plans for an organization. An organization or project risk management plan is a document that helps in identifying, evaluating, and planning for potential issues that could arise within an organization or during a project life cycle. Risk management aims at managing potential both positive and negative impacts on organizations' operations and projects. There are three basic levels of the knowability of risks: known risk, unknown risk, and unknowable risk. Creating a risk management plan for business continuity is necessary to ensure that management makes the right decision. I hope the video is educative and beneficial to you. We love to hear from you. Have you ever been involved in developing risk management plans? We love to have your view and observations on the development of risk management plans within an organization. Kindly post your comments and feedback below in the comments section. If this video has been educative and beneficial to you, then give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thank you for seeing the Risk Management of Everything videos. We love to hear from you. Please post your comments and questions in the comments section below. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Risk Management of Everything channel, and press the notification button so you can be notified when we upload new videos. Thank you.